data. Today we're going to be talking about data analytics in Web3. Why is data important for Web3 brands?
Because data shows you what the people want. You can spend 6 months working and nothing is happening. When you're able to figure out what people are doing, then you can build meaningful products. Because what makes an ecosystem like Base quite successful is that they figure out that people like the social side of crypto, and that's why they are
Mhm.
focusing on like consumer crypto. When the domino crashes, everybody will understand what it takes to really build data-driven brands.
But coming from a data analyst POV, what are some of the most interesting frustrations that you had working in this space as a data analyst?
Education, you just jump in the gun to learn because there's no like structured way. Oh, you learned SQL, you learned on Ethereum, but what's the next way?
Today, for everyone who doesn't know, we're going to be talking about data analytics in Web3, and then we're going to actually having a conversation around some interesting topics. Hopefully it's as insightful as we think it should look like for everyone. And then let's take it off from there. Chris is someone that I've been looking to actually have a conversation with. Hope we are meant to have Joel on the podcast today as well, but I couldn't make it. So it's just going to be I and Chris talking about all things data within this series. Hopefully in the next episode, Joel is going to be around. But from today, one of the first topics that pretty much is out there to have a conversation with, which I'm going to like to know Chris's opinion on, is why is data important for Web3 brands, in your opinion, Chris?
Oh yeah, cool. I think it's very important it's because of the people. So because every great product is designed with the people in mind. And the beauty of working in Web3 is that data shows you what the people want. And so you can build according to what the people want. Unlike in traditional finance or media where I have an idea of a startup, a business or whatever, then I go out and build it and then come back. Sometimes you can spend 6 months working and nothing is happening.
An
But in
idea, yeah.
Web3, yeah, but in Web3, I mean, you could test out or launch out the idea, maybe through a token. And within the first 1 week, you can at least see what's the transaction
Interactions.
rate like. Yeah, what's the transaction rate like? I mean, wallet holders, those are like indicators of growth that are very important. So I feel like Web3 data, Web3 data analysis are very important for Web3 brands. One, it helps you really build products for the people and then help you understand the people. So yeah, I think it's so important. That's literally again too, I think it's the foundation for finding ideas that we thrive. Because
Nice.
when you're able to, systematically understand what people are doing on chain, then you can know what to serve them. So, when you look at blockchain data trends now, there's just a whole lot of things on stable coins. So
Yeah.
imagine, I mean, you come up and then your idea is to build an NFT. That's a good idea, but at the moment, everybody wants stable coin.
Yeah.
So
And real huge. And then that conversation happening.
yeah, like real you on the stable coins. So it really helps, founders know what ideas to work on per time, which is, at the heart of building successful businesses. Yeah.
A question around that would be, I agree with your point, particularly that last part. And that question would be, so data analytics is a huge conversation, is a huge topic. There's
Yeah.
the no code part when you use Tableau, for example, all the way to mastering SQL and whatnot. And then there's one of the fundamentals that I'd like to see and like to explain when it comes to data, which is the three layer: social data, product data, and on-chain data. Now,
Yeah.
when you look at these three classes of data, these three classifications of data, how do they really play a role in helping Web3 protocols or Web3 brands scale? And what's their very, very importance for Web3 protocols?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, first off, I think why I love the podcast that we get to learn. So I'm really learning about the social data layer, the on-chain data
Yeah.
layer, and then the
Infofy
product data layer.
and whatnot.
Yeah, cool. So, and I didn't think, they tie up really well because now, but I feel like everything starts with on-chain data at the on-chain data layer.
Nice.
So on-chain data layer is, where you're able to really figure out what people are doing on-chain.
Chain,
It's like
yeah.
you don't guess it. You look at the data to find what are people really doing. And the beauty is this, like in traditional finance, because, I want to focus on DeFi. Unlike in
Yeah,
traditional
yeah.
finance, where you could see maybe an influencer or something, maybe someone like Warren Buffett, be like,
Mm-hmm.
don't buy Coca-Cola stocks. Maybe tomorrow they've already bought. Do you get? I mean, okay,
Yeah.
let's take
More or less like
um
insider trading.
yeah. So let's take a generous Elon. When he'll
Mm-hmm.
be like, we sold some, or we are buying, or maybe he's shilling Dogecoin, only for you
Yeah.
to see that he's actually selling Dogecoin, right? That's something that happens at the on-chain data layer. Now, the beauty of it is that when you're able to figure out what people are doing, then you can build meaningful products. On-chain data layer ties into the product layer where you now build useful and usable products. What makes an ecosystem like this quite successful is that they figure out that, people like, the social side of crypto. And that's why they are focusing on like consumer crypto, you
Yeah,
know,
true.
building the creator coin, Fakasta, Zora, and all of those social, because this is what they've seen from on-chain. So, I mean, they've, been building that and it's really working pretty well, right? So that's because they've seen what on-chain data said and now they are building out the product layer. Now, when you're able to have insights from the product layer, you're able to, okay, see traction and adoption. It now informs the social layer of on-chain data, of data in Web3 data, right? Because at this point now, you can intentionally strategically create campaigns or content that can influence the social side of these users.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
whatever the influence impacts on the social, on the social aspect of their life will now reflect back on chain. And then you can now improve your product and then go back to the social. So it now
Like it
becomes
like
like a feedback. Yeah.
yeah, feedback loop. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome. And I mean that's something I completely agree with. Because you find many Web3 protocols have a proper standard mid-size Web3 protocol generates a ton of data every single day.
yeah.
And you see many of these protocols don't even have a doing dashboard to see what's happening, or even have an internal dashboard to analyze these data. Not all, but a couple of them that I've seen and spoken with. And then you now start to wonder then how are you creating that feedback loop like you just mentioned? Because it's how are you able to track user
Yeah.
feedback and user behavior all the way back to influencing how you're going to do your marketing campaign and whatnot. So I completely agree with what you all said. And that thing to add to that would be the product layer aspect, which is something very interesting, something that I started to think about or play around with a couple months ago, where the social data we can have data as basic as traffic attribution,
Yeah.
right? Where is the traffic coming from the website? Which sources? Social X is bringing X amount of numbers. Facebook ads is bringing amount of numbers. These influencers are doing X amount of things, and then the products layer now tells you what they are doing in the application. For example,
Yeah.
in a standardized DeFi application, there's a swap page. There's the minting page where if you go look, if let's say it's the standard collateral depth position vault, for example, a CDB vault where you bring your collateral and you mint a stable coin. That is an aspect of the web app, for example. And then there's another site for, let's say, Dexis, for example. You see there are different aspects of this web app. Many smart protocols also have app data layer. For example, Mixpanel is a very popular one where they see people's behavior, part of the websites that people interact with the most, and how they interact on the application, which is a data you might not be able to track on chain. And then they now also look at data on chain and look at the behavioral pattern. I feel when you really look at all of these things, you start to understand why data is important for Web3 brands. You start to understand why data is important for Web3 brands and why they should brands would now need to maybe start paying more attention to it. Better still, pay more attention to the data analysts. What do you think?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's, like you said, just the current space, the current Web3 data space is still, there's still a lot of emotions and vibes happening. But I feel like
Mm,
when the domino crashes, everybody will understand what it takes to really build data driven brands, and that's when
yeah.
data analysts will shine again. So now they can just be doing vibe building until
For now,
domino will bust. Yeah. until domino will bust, then everybody get back to fundamentals. Then we'll definitely have the last laugh.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to that. But coming from a data analyst POV, what are some of the most interesting frustrations that you had working in this space as a data analyst?
I think, the initial point is, education. So like having
Mm,
structured parts of learning, because we are in a new, like, this is like a new revolution, a new evolution. So it's basically we educating, we building and doing our things, right?
yeah, I
So
agree.
initially there was a problem or challenge of education. So you just jump in the gun to learn, because there's not like structured way. Oh, you learned SQL, you learned on Ethereum, but what's the next way? Well, I think
Mm-hmm.
thanks to the good works of people like Andrew Kwong,
Wong, yeah,
Kofi, yeah,
Kofi, yeah,
Dobby and Jackie, yeah, and then
yeah,
Sam of Flipside,
yeah. Sam is
those,
awesome. Yeah,
yeah. So those class of early analysts, they did a very nice job at bringing all of us up, and that's
yeah,
really helpful.
yeah.
But I feel like there's still, and then now we have, teams like Analytics Age,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah,
I get to also contribute to that really frontiering and making data education, available. So once we get that, I think the next step is on data, analyzing and understanding, indexing and understanding data. So there's
mm-hmm.
just a whole lot to it. Data is messy. You need to clean it up. You can spend
Yeah,
1,001 years trying to clean data. So it's just, in fact, sometimes
yeah.
protocols will ask you for metrics that you have to literally invent. And then because, as a person, you want to trust your intuition, but sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
also want to make sure that what you are really giving is accurate. So there's
Correct.
really no way, there's really, no standardized form now of like of actually determining what is right. There's still like a lot of
What is
vibes,
wrong?
and
Yeah.
yeah, so people make decisions, people write queries, everybody's counting things differently. Maybe you're getting from
Different formula.
TVL,
Yeah.
just can you defend your own? But yeah, I think it's really being solved now. Dion is doing a good job at Dion Alim. They are doing a good job at decoding data, which is really making the work easier. And then the industry is trying to like redefine what true adoption metrics means, right? And I feel like that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned something there one of your last statement. You talk about the industry is trying to redefine what true adoption metrics are.
Yeah.
What are some of those metrics, if you don't mind?
Okay, yeah. So I think it's something that I've been exploring recently. So it's like a new
Mm-hmm.
series that I'm working on. I think I already shared an excerpt of it on my X. Oh, it hasn't gone live on
Mm-hmm.
it, but I've already written an article on it. So like moving beyond vanity metrics. So I
Mm.
kind of think as metrics, three levels to metrics. There's user quantity metrics like transaction count, transaction volume, active users. Those are like quantity. They'll tell
Yeah.
you how many users. But then the next layer to adoption metric is quality, user quality. So once you now understand maybe like user segmentation, what is happening with the users,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how much real value did they really contribute? I mean, you could actually
Yeah.
have 500,000 active wallets, but
Yeah.
then imagine if it's for a protocol that's launched a campaign, and the only thing, the cumulative net worth in that is just $10,000. So you see that
So that's a
tracking
question mark.
adoption, tracking adoption on the quantity layer, will be faltered when you look at quality levels, right?
Yeah.
And then, the third level of the BVM framework is now on user behavior. So you
Mm.
want to now really understand how do these users really behave and interact. These are points where we are looking at things like cohort retention. We are looking at user journey. We are looking at proprietary, metrics like quality score. So how was like the on-chain score, from building around the space? Like, so yeah. So these are like three layers that I think when it comes to on-chain adoption metrics, there's user quantity level, there's quality metric levels, and then there's user behavior analytics, right?
Awesome. I mean, that's huge. I mean, quantity, quality, and user behavior layers. These are some of the points that I think should be very much emphasized within the ecosystem. because right now in crypto, in CD particularly, one of the biggest metrics you see is mindshare. I've
Yeah.
done a lot of I've done a lot of tweets screaming at the top of my voice saying mindshare is borderline vanity metrics because it really doesn't give you a clear opinion on people's contribution and interaction with a certain protocol on chain. You understand?
Yeah.
Um, and one another point I like that you mentioned there was user journey. There was a protocol I was working with where I had to look at what protocols wallets interacted with before they came on the protocol, and then
Yeah.
what event actions they took before they came on the protocol. Then when they came on this protocol, what events they underwent or what event actions they took, and then when they leave, what's the next events and what next
Never.
protocols actions they take. Yeah. And then when I did that analysis, it opened an interesting trend pattern on user journey and user behavior across three different protocols, three kind of like intersimulated protocols. And for example, when you're doing DeFi strategies, you can take a stable coin here, put it on this other
Yeah.
platform to generate yield and take the YT or whatever. It's people have interesting behavioral pattern. And you mentioned the user journey right there, and I think it's incredible. But and hopefully we get to see more and more dashboards that actually looking into user journey in a very interesting way, to be honest. It's
Yeah.
something I really agree with.
Yeah, I think that's actually the next level of analytics that is beyond what you see on Dune, because these are like top level secrets.
Yeah.
So most
I
most
agree.
protocols most protocols will really not even bring it out in public. So
Yeah,
these are,
yeah.
when you see analysts go mute, these are the kind of things they go to analyze.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest, I mean, I think I agree with you. I agree with you. Let's bring it back home a bit. Earlier today I was trying to collate some resources. I remember sharing one of the tweets with Joel and we laughed over it. Some of our earliest tweets when we were analyzing some interesting protocols back then on Flipside. This is around June last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much has happened between that time and now. But the truth is, one of the biggest challenge I've had in DeFi and in crypto being a blockchain analyst is starting out.
Okay.
Really, yeah, I think Sam was one of the first persons that actually really helped me understand certain nuances within DeFi and analyzing data and a whole lot of stuff that I had to learn from Sam one on one. However, for a newbie who doesn't have access to Sam, access to Andrew Wong and Jackie and yes, like what are the key things that a new person, let's say I want to start out my career in data as a blockchain data analyst for the first time. I'm coming from Web2 background. I understand what Tableau is. I understand this kind of stuff. But I want to start out in in Web3 as a blockchain analyst. What are the key things to learn first when starting out that would ensure that I have a much more smoother journey um in my entire learning process?
I think what I would say is two things. Interestingly, I'm not sure that's what you expect, but I feel like two
Mm-hmm.
things that are very important to start out with is patience and consistency.
I'm expecting consistency.
So here's the thing, first, because if you really want to do play this game for the long term, you must have the patience of learning the fundamentals again and again. I think the people who really have the hardest time in this space are intermediates like you and I, because on one hand, you look back at the things you need to learn, but there's no time to learn it. On the other hand, like you need to scale up, you need to your career, but you can't scale
Very
till you learn
quickly.
you can't scale till
Yeah.
learn the fundamentals, but you don't have the time to learn. So I feel like, people that are really coming up should, have the patience to go through the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Patience, fundamentals. Really understand this. Don't be like some people. We don't call names. They are in DeFi,
My God.
but they've not used DeFi.
No call names.
No, no, no. If
It's
you
a
are
safe place. We
guilty,
don't judge. We don't judge. It's a safe place.
so you get. No, I know some people. Some of those people are even laughing. Self. Put in. So calm down. Calm down. Yeah, and then I feel like it's a consistency. Maybe a
Mm-hmm.
better way to put it is just do hard things. Just do hard things. I mean, do hard things try and read the
And also
docs.
maybe don't be scared to fail.
Yeah. I mean,
Don't be scared
just
to don't be scared to put out rubbish dashboards.
no. If you don't have like a bad diagnosis, there's nothing to improve upon eventually, right?
Yeah.
But I genuinely feel that have the courage to do hard things with patience and consistency. So once you have like this, soft skills sorted out, I think the next thing is build your knowledge systemically. I mean, I feel like you don't start out in Web3 space and then you're jumping to analyze pep decks. You've not, you've not done decks. You're going to pep
Pep
decks.
decks. That's a lot of work.
No. You can figure your way out with ChatGPT, but it will catch up with you.
There's only so much you can figure out. Like, first of all, you need to first of all read the docs to start with.
No, so that you may not read docs. I see figure it out too.
I don't know how people do it too. because
it's not
I find it very hard analyzing the protocol and their fundamentals when I don't understand what's happening. Because one of the things I noticed with many protocols, two lending and borrowing protocols might not do the same things the same way. I might not calculate certain things the same way. Just reading that doc, spending time with it, and understanding what's really happening, why they are doing this, their thought process. I think it cuts your querying and work into half. To be honest,
actually, yeah.
Rather than just jumping into the tables, like I'm looking like it's. I think it cuts your stuff into half. And that systemic learning that you mentioned is huge. I think it should be framed and hanged like on the wall. Like,
I think it's especially for I don't know how to say it, but people within our context, right? That our system of education and learning, just is surface level. You can't play in the big room if you don't build systemically. You can do the manual menial work, but it's still a big deal. You can't get the big deal done. And I mean, this is me saying this after like 2-3 years of being in the space and trying to figure out things, right? If I had to like start off again, I just wish there's like that person to hold me and be like, you know what, Chris, calm down. Go gradually. If you build these things, if you build it systemically, you will last.
True.
So I feel like two things is have the courage to do hard things, then build your knowledge systemically. Understand fundamentals. What's the entry point into, Web3 data? So, you're talking about things on stablecoin. Where do you use stablecoin? What is stablecoin used for? Payments, understand payments. Where do you use them on dexes? Okay, after I'm on dexes, what else? What's the next level? I want to lend and I want to borrow. Okay. Or maybe I want to stake my funds, right? From staking, you're going to, okay, we are tokenizing now, right? There's tokenization happening. And then you now start entering the nitty gritties of specialized aspects of data, like smart accounts, things like X407, X402, the ERC, I mean, whatever, all of those unique
all the basic
points
standards. Be honest,
yeah. So, but fundamentally, I mean, approach is like a university, right? It's going to be like a 4-year course. Yeah, like it's going to be like a 4-year course and you want to really do it well. And that's really what I think actually.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point. I think it's a huge point. I tend to believe that when you pass that journey, earlier when we were talking about before we started recording, we were talking about some of our interest around stable coins and payments and this and that and that. I think it's only possible to have that kind of conversations, haven't tried to pass through the process. Maybe utilize stablecoin, analyze stablecoin, right? Analyze lending and borrowing, use lending and borrowing. By the time you're done it, you kind of like find what you like.
Yeah.
And then you might probably want to maybe double down on it and then just keep learning and keep learning it much better in a much more interesting way. But again, that system is very important. I don't think it's possible to at least keep that system part process. I think it's very important to pass the system, like you just mentioned. That's huge, really huge, really huge. What would you say? Let's say you have a job to analyze protocol core. So how what about here is called core. Let's use that as a name protocol. What's the approach, or what's your approach to analyzing that protocol? If it's a job you're meant to do? What's the first thing you do? Do you have checklists you pass through? Do you have processes you do before you start doing anything? I know it differs from analyst to analyst, depending on the field, right? But what about you? How does it work with you?
I mean, I think having the conversation also is bringing like a level of clarity about how best to approach it. So this is going to be like a mix of what I do and what I'm going to like keep doing, right? Like, integrate into my process. So I think first things first is, having like a discovery session call with the clients
Yeah.
because, if they are very accessible, because you genuinely want to really hear from them, like know what the problem is. Because sometimes it's not just what's written on paper. There are really things that they've not spoken about that is within their hearts, right? So you want to really know. So
Mm-hmm.
have like a discovery call with the core team, understand their unique problems and all. So once that is, done, you finalize your findings into maybe like a brief that you share with the team once you aligned on it. And the initial periphery of invoice payment is done because you're working. You need to get the bag. So yeah, to get on the actual work process, I think first thing first is like reading through the docs. One, like reading
Mm.
to really understand the docs. So usually when I get like a brief, sometimes initially I'll start making initial research on the company to know what's up, what they are doing. So once I have like, the brief, then read the docs to truly understand, then gather the relevant contracts and details of what I need.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is truly, okay, this metrics that they want, where can I find it on chain, right? So you really want
Yeah.
to, okay, is this available in this table? Is it available in this other table? What's this
Yeah.
data source? How can we plug it in? So once you've clear on data source, I think the next way is actually like writing the query, which in this age is not like such a big deal because once you get the table and the markdown, you could just plug into your AI assistant and then, you speed
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
your query writing process, and
Your work process. Yeah.
because you understand how it should be and what the thinking model should be, so now you can actually look through to ensure data accuracy, right? And of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
putting nicely into a dashboard and format, publish, make the dashboard like a bit interactive in terms of like adding like relevant explainers, and ship ship the dashboard more like get some team feedback. So have it's something you just iterate and improve on it until the dashboard is live. And with cool dashboards now, you can maybe like write a thread or report on whatever the insight you found from it. Make it easier for the team to understand, right? And
Yeah.
just like I'm learning from my on-chain helper, Mr. Joel. You could make a video about it, and of course, the
Yeah.
Optimus himself make a video about it to share, and have those things go up and live, right? Yeah, I think those are some key things. I mean, like how I
That's
think
interesting.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a part that's quite common with everybody. That smart contracts sourcing parts. For me, I
yeah,
pay attention to the smart contracts and particularly the events because sometimes I like to because sometimes on Dune, not all the data is decoded. See,
yeah,
and then you might need to now start spending time on Etherscan, getting relatable transaction hashes, and then try to decode them by yourself. I'm using Varcha,
yeah,
for example.
yeah,
And so those part tends for me, it would come first before even query, right? Because you need to decode before even, and that's the case where there's no available data on Dune, or it's not been decoded yet on Dune. But Dune decoding most
yeah.
of on-chain data, if you're being honest. So yeah, I think that's fairly true. And the video part of thing is something that I and Joe talk about it very often. I find it very very interesting where if you do a dashboard and you literally poured your heart and soul into it, you have so much to talk about.
Yeah, actually.
And, and you just want to talk about because you're quite excited about this stuff. There's so much to talk about, and you can express the importance of the data and the story behind the data much, much better than if you write a text.
Yeah,
So
actually.
so, that, so that's why we use video. It's quite interesting. That's why we use video. You should try
So,
it
but
more often.
yeah, yeah. So, how has it been like? What's the response and reception rate like on that?
Yeah, it's always very good. I mean, because let's say you send a video to a client and they're watching the video.
Yeah,
they would immediately have questions. They like the way you break it down. It leads to much faster feedback loops, for example.
Yeah.
And it's not so hard. All you need is not now we have gears. Back in the
Yeah.
days, a simple loom recording is pretty much enough, to be honest. And then you see they come back to tell you, yeah, I like this part. I like the fact I mentioned this. This is really helpful. And then it's easily shareable. Somebody can easily share it with the team. And the most important thing is data storytelling is another skill that is not so much talked about. You see, the
Yeah.
way you tell the story of the data makes the data importance resonate better and stick. You see, if you tell a
Yeah,
story along
actually.
with the data, they remember the story and hence they remember the metric. You
Yeah.
see,
Yeah, true.
so that is another importance of why I think shooting video is very important and why many clients tend to find it very, very helpful because of how well you can break down this information, how
Yeah.
you can correlate other events together, and it just kind of like creates this makes sense. Yeah, that's true. Well, I never thought about that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it creates those kind of feedbacks, and it's been an interesting 41 minutes of conversation in the first episode on data analysis in Web3 GM. Speaking with Chris, the hope is that we've been able to share a couple of information based on our experience as intermediates, like Chris rightly mentioned. And but the most important thing is that if anybody who's listening for the first time and you're learning data analysis for the first time, it's your first time in the space regarding data, and everything looks fugazi. The most important thing is to just stay consistent. And then follow the basics. Many of the basics which Chris rightly mentioned today. It's important. Is I think it's very difficult to fault anything he has Chris particularly mentioned regarding the systematic process of actually learning, and then actually paying attention to the fundamentals because it's actually what's going to make it very, very strong. If you've really enjoyed the episode, please keep a like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And hopefully we be able to actually come around next week with another episode on data analysis in Web3 and then have more conversations. And hopefully you have a fuller house. And look forward to you next week.